Hello, creative, and welcome back to the Empowered Creatives podcast, finding confidence between hustle and burnout. I'm your host, Victoria Hines, creative career coach, helping creatives just like you navigate those twists and turns in your creative career. Greetings from Asheville, North Carolina. I have officially moved into my new apartment, which I am super excited about. Always so much work to do. I had the best of intentions. I was really excited today. I was working on my office and setting it up. I have all my plants set up. I've gotten some bookshelves to put them on. And I was really excited to start recording my podcast from a desk again. If this is the first episode you're tuning into, you might not know this, but I've been pretty much nomadic, traveling around a lot the last year, a little over a year. So it's been a lot of me putting my podcast equipment in my suitcase and then setting up wherever I could find a place. But I had the best of intentions and set everything up and went to go sit down and instantly realized all of the AC units are outside that window. So it has the worst sound in the world in that room and is not conducive to recording a podcast. So unless I got a bunch of soundproofing up against that window, just finally realized that's probably not the right place for me to be recording these episodes. So I have some ideas. I'll be figuring out how to implement those. But for right now, I'm recording this from my lovely closet, looking at my fun little dragon tail that I made, dinosaur tail that I made for Halloween a couple years ago on my shoes, and my very OCD organized clothing in rainbow order. All these things that make me happy. Okay, but that's not what this episode is about. This episode is about, honestly, it kind of is about the best of intentions, and sometimes things don't turn out the way you planned. So it's good to dream. It's good to set goals. It's good for you to plan. All of these are things that you have 100% control over. But once you step foot into the journey, into the real world, into the process where you have to implement these dreams, these goals, these plans, things get messy. The real world throws curveballs and forces you to set new priorities over and over and over again. I've seen this happen with my clients all the time. It happens to me all the time. It happens to my friends. We can have the best of intentions and have the best roadmap in front of us. And just like going on a big adventure, things are going to pop up. So the real world is going to possibly drain your energy. Maybe it's going to drain your funds while you're going after the goal that you inevitably want to devote time back into resting. The real world reminds you that this journey is a whole lot harder than you ever thought it could be. That's why it's important. Sometimes you have to let go of your timeline. To give you a little bit of a picture of this, that I'm not just, preaching from the pulpit, that this is something I've had to recognize in my own life. Last year, I had 4 pretty big goals and intentions in my year. So this is 2023, last year. I really wanted to travel. I wanted to own a home. I wanted to write a book. And I had a very strong intentioning around awakening and stepping into who I was. So for some of those goals, I feel like I did a lot of self-discovery. I grew in a lot of ways. It was a very challenging year for me. So I think awakening to who I am and how I handle those challenges happened. I also traveled a ton. I think I calculated it. It's something like over 36,000 miles across the entire world. But the timeline wasn't right for some of those other goals. It never felt right to own a home. I think many of you, if you've been paying attention to the news, know what the housing market seemed like. And I didn't know where I wanted to settle down. And I realized, it's not easy to own a home right now. it's expensive and it just didn't feel like the right time. Also did not feel like the right time to write a book. It was hard to carve out the time for myself, let alone to add another project to the table. And B, I just never had a routine in my life, like a steady enough routine in order for me to sit down and really focus on a task like writing a book. So despite good intentions, 2023 ended up not being the year for those goals. Now, just because things didn't happen on the timeline that I wanted them to, doesn't mean that they're never going to happen. These are still goals. These are still dreams that I have, but I just had to recognize that last year was never or not the right year for them. So the seed of your dream might just need more time to germinate and gain energy before it can sprout. So this episode, I want to share with you 4 strategies to try and gauge whether you are forcing a timeline on your dream or goal that is actually going to cause more damage than actually helping you. Hey there, creative. I have a delightful invitation just for you. Imagine diving even deeper into the incredible world of living your life as an empowered creative, including more tips, tricks, and advice arriving straight into your inbox. Sounds pretty cool, right? Well, guess what? I've got something special brewing, and I don't want you to miss out. Introducing my oh-so-awesome bi-weekly email newsletter. It's a vibrant community bursting with passion, curiosity, and the love of building a creative life. By joining my newsletter, you'll get first access to new promotions and launches, as well as my welcoming voice in your ear every other week. Also, I'll share with you my creative career audit worksheet, a secret tool myself and clients have used during our own career transitions and pivots. So don't miss this opportunity to be my pen pal, as well as deepen your connection with fellow empowered creatives by heading to www.victoriahines.com or following the link in the show notes below. Thank you for being such an incredible listener, and I really look forward to sharing this exciting journey with you through both the podcast and my newsletter. Now, let's dive back into the show. All right, creative, here's strategy number 1. I want you to ask your heart and your body, not your brain, is the timing right? Is right now the time? The best way to do this is to find a quiet space, to slow down. Maybe you do a meditation right before, but give yourself a second to find a moment to yourself and just ask yourself the question and wait. Wait for the answer to come. Sometimes it will be a voice. Sometimes you'll have a feeling, a sensation in your body. The more your brain is spinning, though, it's probably not the right answer. If your brain is spinning, that's your brain trying to make this decision for you instead of letting your instinct, your deeper voice come to you. So if it is a little voice, for me, it comes as a very strong, direct, to the point answer. It's not going to talk in circles or be from a place of fear. So that's your first strategy. Second strategy, what would you have to give up that you are doing right now to have the time, energy, or money to tackle the original goal or dream today? And is it worth the cost? This is a little bit more of a practical exercise. So the first strategy was very much more instinctual. This one's a little bit more really asking yourself, you probably, hopefully, since you're listening to this episode, a lot of the times you haven't tackled that big goal or dream because you just are missing a resource. You're missing time, you're missing energy, or you're missing money. And so you are devoting all of that in a different direction because you have to. Now, this is a good gauge to help you figure out, are you strapped thin? Would trying to add this to your plate really, really pull you away from other things that you have to do or that you also want to be doing? And you have to decide, is it worth the cost? I once had a client, and this was actually maybe the downfall side of it was, I was working with them and I would give them a lot of homework, some exercises to really help them level up and move into the job that they really wanted long term, the career path they wanted. And I'd check in every single week and I wouldn't hear from them and I wouldn't hear from them. And then, a month or two later that we'd meet back again and I'd find out they'd maybe done one of like the 4 things and it was the smallest thing on the plate. And I finally had to challenge them and say, hey, I get it. Life is hard. Your family can pull you in a lot of directions. You have work, you have all these commitments. The question is, are they more important? And it's okay if they are, than this change you are trying to enact in your life, this new project, this goal that you have. So that's what you have to decide. Strategy number 3. I want you to record your dilemma on voice audio. What is your goal or dream, and how do you feel about the lack of progress? I want you to just kind of spitball, record your voice, and just talk. Share how you're feeling. Share how maybe frustrated, how much desire you have to implement this new dream, and you're just not getting there. I want you to then wait a few hours before coming back to the audio recording and imagine that this recording is actually from a friend of yours. And I want you to listen back. And I want you to think, if this friend was saying what you are saying, what would you tell them? What would you tell them? It's very hard sometimes to have forgiveness for ourselves, forgiveness that we aren't superhuman. And I think this is a really enlightening exercise to help us see when we are being possibly a little too hard on ourselves. All right, the 4th strategy. What's a small way you can keep the goal or dream alive without investing too many unavailable resources? So maybe right now just isn't the right time. Finding a way to give yourself a tiny win and tell yourself that you're still moving towards that goal can be not only rewarding, but it can also give you some spirit and some hope again. So for me, maybe if I was writing a book, going back to all of my notes that I've had before and reading through them, maybe it would be consolidating all my notes because I think I have ideas living in way too many places right now. Maybe with writing a book too, it could be going to the bookstore and seeing what other books are out there, doing a little research on what other books are similar to what I want to be writing. Whatever that may be, finding something that is simple, easy, fun, rewarding, there's a solid endpoint to the task, that can be a really great way to move towards your goal without, having to find all of the time or money or energy to devote towards really going towards that finish line. What I've come to learn is that it's important to remember to dream. And it's equally as important to stay focused on the very next step instead of 30 steps down the pathway of your journey that you are on. Because the only thing that you can control is your very next step. And sometimes you're just not going to get to that quest until a little bit further down the road. So I want you to go to your 2024, so this year's goals, dreams, and intentions. Which ones feel like something that you want to tackle right now? You know that January, February, March, let's just say the first quarter of the year, this is something that you know you want to and need to tackle. And which of these goals need to sit back in the wings until the time is right? All right, creative. I'm going to give a little PSA. So this is going to be my second to last episode for this season. I will be back with a season 3. But just as the timeline is important, I had to take a little break coming up soon. So my next episode will be my very last episode before I see you for season 3. So creative, if you are enjoying this podcast, don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe. And until next week, stay creative.